The giant screens in Earth's United Command Center showed nothing but static. Captain James Miller stood frozen, his coffee cup halfway to his lips, as he stared at the wall of white noise where just moments ago the peace delegation had been speaking. Something had gone terribly wrong. "Get them back online," someone shouted across the room. The command center erupted into action, but Miller knew in his gut that it was already too late. He had seen the strange shapes moving in the background just before the feed cut out. The aliens hadn't been alone in that room. 3 hours later, the truth hit the world like a sledgehammer. The entire Earth peace delegation, 15 of humanity's finest diplomats and leaders, had been killed. The Dominion, as the Alien Alliance called themselves, had planned it from the start. They had never wanted peace. Miller watched the recording again and again. The casual way the alien guards had moved forward, the sudden flash of weapons, the looks of surprise on the human delegates' faces, it was all burned into his memory now. But what hit him hardest was the message that came after, broadcast on all frequencies in perfect English. "Your species is weak," the alien leader had said, his multiple eyes blinking in what looked like amusement. "You speak of peace when you should prepare for war. Submit to the Dominion, or face extinction. You have one Earth day to decide." The response came faster than anyone expected. Within 6 hours, every major military power on Earth had done something unprecedented. They agreed, not to surrender, but to fight. Ancient enemies shook hands across borders. Countries that had been at each other's throats for centuries suddenly found common ground. The Earth Defense Coalition was born in those few desperate hours. In the command center, Miller watched as generals and admirals from around the world gathered. The Chinese admiral stood shoulder to shoulder with his American counterpart. The Russian general shared strategy notes with his European colleagues. They all knew what was coming. "They think we're weak because we offered peace first," Miller said to the room, his voice carrying in the momentary quiet. "They mistake kindness for weakness, diplomacy for cowardice." He looked around at the hardened faces of Earth's military leaders. They have no idea what they've done. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Hidden protocols, ones that had existed only in sealed documents and worst-case scenario plans, were activated. Deep beneath the oceans, in secret mountain bases, and in hidden orbital stations, humanity's real military might begin to stir. Miller found himself assigned to coordinate the first wave of defense. As he worked, reports kept coming in. The Dominion ships were moving into position around Earth's orbit. Their weapons were charged. They truly expected humanity to simply give up. "Sir," a young officer called out to Miller. "Message from Defense Station Omega. They're ready." Miller nodded. Defense Station Omega wasn't on any public record. Neither were its sisters, Alpha through Psi. Humanity had been preparing for this possibility for longer than anyone knew. The public had seen the regular military parades, the standard ships and weapons. They had never seen what was hidden beneath that facade. The alien ultimatum had 3 hours left when Earth sent its reply. It wasn't the groveling surrender the Dominion expected. Instead, it was just 9 words, broadcast on all frequencies. "You want bloodshed? Then bloodshed you shall have." The Dominion ships opened fire immediately, their energy weapons lighting up Earth's night sky. But their shots hit nothing but empty space. The defense platforms they'd spotted, the satellites they'd targeted, all were decoys. Humanity's real defenses were elsewhere. That's when the Ghost Fleet appeared. 100 ships, built in secret over decades, using technology that even most of Earth's own military didn't know existed. They slipped out of their hidden docks like shadows coming alive. Miller watched from the command center as the first battle of humanity's greatest war began. The Dominion ships, caught completely by surprise, tried to regroup. Their formation was perfect, their technology advanced. But they had made a fatal mistake. They had assumed that humanity's visible military was all that existed. They hadn't understood that humans, through all their history, had learned one vital lesson. Always keep an ace up your sleeve. Always be prepared for betrayal. The Ghost Fleet struck from multiple directions at once. Their weapons, designed specifically for this kind of combat, tore through the Dominion's supposedly superior shields. 3 alien ships exploded before they could even return fire. "Send the second message," Miller ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. The communication went out to all Dominion ships. "You came to our home. You killed our people. You demanded our surrender. Now learn why humanity has survived every crisis in its history. Learn why our own world fears us. This is just the beginning." As if to emphasize those words, the hidden defense stations revealed themselves. Energy beams lanced out from positions the Dominion scans had never detected. More alien ships fell. The survivors began to retreat, their formation broken, their confidence shattered. But humanity wasn't finished. Miller gave the final order of this first battle: launch the Harbingers. Small, fast ships, barely more than missiles with engines, streaked out from Earth's atmosphere. The Dominion ships shot some down, but enough got through. They attached themselves to the alien vessels' hulls like mechanical leeches. Then they began broadcasting. "We could detonate these now," the message said. "We could end you all in this moment. But we want you to deliver a message to your leaders. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that they didn't find sheep to slaughter. They found wolves in sheep's clothing. And now the wolves are angry." The remaining Dominion ships fled, carrying their destructive passengers with them. In the command center, Miller finally let himself relax slightly. The first battle was over. Humanity had won. But he knew this was just the beginning. As reports of their victory spread across Earth, Miller looked at the static-filled screen where the peace delegation had died. "You should have taken the peace we offered," he said quietly. "Now you'll learn why Earth's history is written in blood, and why we tried so hard to find another way. You wanted to see humanity's real face. Well, now you will." The war had begun. Humanity had revealed its teeth, and the galaxy was about to learn why picking a fight with Earth was the last mistake any species would ever make. The Ghost Fleet hung in Mars orbit like a cloud of deadly stars. Captain Miller watched from the bridge of his ship as Dr. Anna Ross's team worked on the captured Dominion vessel. It had been 3 weeks since Earth's first victory, and humanity wasn't wasting any time. "Captain," Dr. Ross's voice crackled over the comm. "You need to see this." Her excitement was clear even through the static. Miller ordered a shuttle prepared immediately. The inside of the alien ship still made him uncomfortable. Everything was just slightly wrong. The corridors too tall, the angles not quite right. But Dr. Ross didn't seem to notice as she led him to what had once been the engine room. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a mess of wires and crystals her team had exposed. "Their technology isn't more advanced than ours. It's just different. They took a completely different path to reach the same goals." Miller watched as she explained what they'd learned. The Dominion had focused on energy weapons and shields, thinking they were the peak of military technology. They had never considered the alternatives that humanity had developed in secret. "Project Prometheus is ready," she told him, her eyes shining. "We've adapted their shield technology to work with our systems, but they'll never see it coming because we're using it differently than they could imagine." Back on his ship, Miller received the report he'd been waiting for. The Dominion was coming back, just as planned. This time they weren't sending a small fleet. They were sending an armada, thousands of ships, carrying their elite warriors. "Let them come," Miller said to his crew. "Everything is ready." The Ghost Fleet moved into position. Behind them, hidden in Mars' shadow, waited humanity's next surprise. While Dr. Ross had been studying the alien ship, engineers across Earth had been working day and night, converting every available civilian vessel into a weapon of war. They called it the Reaper Protocol. Cargo ships became carriers. Mining vessels became battleships. Even old space stations had been turned into mobile fortresses. The Dominion thought they knew what Earth's military capabilities were. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The alien armada appeared exactly where the predictions said they would. Their ships filled the space between Mars and Earth like a swarm of angry wasps. Their first transmission was filled with rage and threats. "Your tricks won't save you this time," the Dominion commander announced. "We will burn your worlds and scatter your ashes across the stars." Miller sent back a simple reply. "You still don't understand what you're dealing with, but you will." The battle began with a flash of light that would have blinded anyone watching without filters. The Dominion fleet opened fire with everything they had, expecting to catch Earth's forces in a killing blow. Instead, their energy weapons splashed harmlessly against invisible barriers. Dr. Ross's adaptation of their shield technology worked perfectly, but with a twist. The shields didn't just block the attacks, they absorbed the energy. "Now," Miller ordered, "show them what humanity can do." The Ghost Fleet split apart in a maneuver that would have been impossible for larger ships. Each vessel moved with perfect precision, creating gaps in their formation. Through these gaps, humanity's converted civilian fleet emerged. The Dominion commanders barely had time to realize what they were seeing before the real attack began. Mining lasers, designed to cut through asteroids, sliced through alien hulls. Cargo ships released clouds of smart mines that sought out enemy vessels like hungry predators. But the real surprise came from Project Prometheus. The energy the shields had absorbed was channeled into massive electromagnetic pulses. Dominion ships suddenly found their systems shutting down, their weapons powerless, their engines dead. "This is what happens when you force humanity to go to war," Miller transmitted to the failing alien fleet. "We take whatever you throw at us and turn it against you." The battle lasted for hours. The Dominion forces fought bravely, but they were fighting an enemy that had spent decades preparing for this exact scenario. An enemy that had turned their own technology against them in ways they had never imagined possible. Dr. Ross's voice came over the secure channel. "Captain, we're ready with the next phase. All ships report successful energy collection." Miller gave the order that would be remembered in history books. "Begin the Prometheus cascade." Every human ship, from the smallest converted mining vessel to the largest Ghost Fleet carrier, released their stored energy at once. The blast rippled through space like a wave of pure destruction. Dominion ships that had survived the first attack found themselves torn apart by their own weapon energy, turned back against them. When it was over, the space around Mars was filled with drifting debris. The few surviving Dominion ships were retreating in panic, their formations shattered, their confidence broken. "Send them our message," Miller ordered. The transmission went out on all frequencies. "You thought you knew war. You thought you knew violence. But you've only seen what other aliens showed you. Now you're learning what humans can do. We've spent our entire history fighting ourselves, perfecting the art of war. Did you really think we wouldn't be ready for you?" In the aftermath, as human ships began the process of salvaging useful technology from the wreckage, Miller met with Dr. Ross on the command deck. "Their database is already giving us more weapons," she told him. "More tools we can adapt and improve. They thought they were so far ahead of us, but they never understood one simple truth about humans." "And what's that?" Miller asked, though he already knew the answer. "We don't just learn from victory," she said. "We learn from defeat, from hardship, from every challenge. Earth's history is full of wars, and each one taught us something new. The Dominion just gave us a whole new set of lessons to learn from." Miller looked out at the debris field that had once been the pride of the Dominion fleet. "Send word to Earth. Tell them to begin mass production of everything we've developed. The Dominion will be back, and next time they'll be desperate. We need to be ready. They'll think twice before attacking us again," Dr. Ross said confidently. "No," Miller replied, his face grim. "They'll come back because they have to. We've wounded their pride. We've shown the galaxy that they can be beaten. They'll throw everything they have at us now." He smiled slightly. "And that's exactly what we want. Because next time, we'll be even more ready." The stars seemed to shine brighter as humanity's fleet regrouped, preparing for the next phase of the war. They had won their first major victory, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. The real war was about to start, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy exactly what they were capable of when pushed too far. The Dominion's elite forces arrived in a way no one expected. They came in ships made of bone and flesh, living vessels that screamed through space, carrying warriors bred for war. But humanity had changed in the months since the war began. They weren't the same species that had offered peace at first contact. Captain Miller stood in the new war room deep beneath Earth's surface, watching the biological ships approach on holographic displays. Next to him, Dr. Ross studied the readings with narrowed eyes. "They think this will frighten us," she said, her voice steady. "Living ships, warriors with extra arms, and built-in weapons. But they forget. We've seen worse in our own horror movies." The room erupted in grim laughter. It was true. Humanity had imagined horrors far beyond what the Dominion could create. And now, those imaginations were becoming reality. "Show them what we've prepared," Miller ordered. "Activate the Reaper Protocol Mark II." The screens lit up with new information. The converted civilian ships had evolved. Using technology reverse-engineered from the Dominion's first failed attack, combined with humanity's darkest innovations, they had created something new. The first wave of Earth's defense looked like normal ships at first. But as the alien fleet approached, they began to change. Plates shifted and moved like scales. Weapons emerged from hidden ports like teeth from gums. The ships didn't just look alive. They moved like living things. "They wanted to scare us with biological warfare," Dr. Ross said, checking the final readings. "Let's show them why Earth's biologists were kept away from weapons research until now." The battle began without warning or declaration. The Dominion's living ships launched clouds of spores, biological weapons meant to eat through hull metals. They expected screams of horror, panic, retreat. Instead, they watched as the spores hit Earth's ships and died instantly. Did they really think, Miller transmitted to the enemy fleet, that a planet full of diseases and viruses wouldn't know how to fight biological attacks? Earth's ships responded with their own weapons, beams of light that carried engineered phages, viruses that specifically targeted the living material of the Dominion's bioships. The alien vessels began to rot in space, their flesh turning gray and lifeless. But the Dominion elite weren't finished. From their dying ships came swarms of combat pods, each carrying warriors modified for space combat. 8 armed soldiers in living armor, charging toward Earth's fleet with weapons grown from their own bodies. "Now," Miller ordered, "show them what humans look like when we stop holding back." The sides of Earth's ships opened. From them came humanity's answer to biological warfare. Soldiers in suits that blended mechanical and organic components. Not cyborgs, but something new. Something that Dr. Ross's team had created by studying both human and alien biology. "You thought we would be disgusted." The message went out to all Dominion forces. "You thought we would hesitate. Humanity has dreamed of becoming more than flesh for centuries. You just gave us the final pieces we needed." The space between the fleets became a battlefield of nightmares. Dominion warriors discovered that their extra arms meant nothing against humans who could think in multiple dimensions at once. Their enhanced brains connected directly to their weapons and ships. Dr. Ross watched the tactical displays with professional interest. "Their biological enhancements are impressive," she noted, "but they're designed for pure combat. Ours are made to adapt." She was right. As the battle continued, the human forces began to change. Their suits learned from every encounter, modified themselves to counter new threats. The Dominion warriors were powerful, but they were static, unchanging, limited. Miller received reports from across the solar system. The Dominion's biological fleet was dying, their elite warriors being systematically destroyed. But he felt no joy in the victory. Only a grim satisfaction that humanity had proven itself once again. "They're retreating," someone announced. The remaining Dominion ships were pulling back, their biological components writhing in obvious pain. But Earth's forces didn't pursue. "Let them go," Miller ordered. "Let them report what they've seen. Let them tell their leaders what happens when you force humanity to adapt." In the aftermath, as cleanup crews dealt with the biological debris floating in space, Dr. Ross approached Miller with a tablet full of new data. "We learned more from this battle than all the others combined," she said. "Their biological technology, their genetic engineering, it's all there in the wreckage. Give me a month, and I'll show you what humanity can really do with it." Miller nodded slowly. "They wanted to show us true horror," he said. "Instead, they gave us new tools, new ways to fight." He looked at the tactical displays, where the retreating Dominion fleet was becoming tiny dots of light. "But I wonder if they understand yet what they've started." "Sir," Dr. Ross asked, "they've forced humanity to evolve faster than we ever have before. We're changing, becoming something new, something that might not be able to go back to what we were." He turned to face her. "The question is, when this war is over, will we recognize ourselves?" Dr. Ross was quiet for a moment. "Maybe that's the real lesson they need to learn," she finally said. "Not just that humanity is strong, but that we're willing to change everything about ourselves to survive, to win." The war room slowly emptied as staff went to process the battle's aftermath. But Miller stayed, watching the displays, thinking about what was coming next. The Dominion had shown their elite forces, their biological weapons, their greatest horrors. Now it was humanity's turn to show what they could really do. The biological samples were already being studied. The genetic technologies would be adapted, improved, transformed into something the Dominion never imagined possible. "Send word to all commands," Miller ordered the remaining staff. "Tell them to prepare for the next phase." The Dominion wanted to see monsters. Well, now they'll see what real monsters look like. And they'll learn why humanity locked away our darkest sciences, why we put limits on our research. The message went out across human space. "They've shown us their worst. Now we'll show them ours. And they'll learn why Earth's own people feared what we could become." In labs across the planet, researchers began their work. In orbital stations, new ships were being grown rather than built. And in the deep black of space, humanity's forces prepared for the next battle, a battle that would show the galaxy why humans had always been so careful with their power. The war was entering a new phase, and the monsters weren't the ones coming from the stars. They were the ones humanity had kept chained within themselves, now finally set free. News spread through the ranks like wildfire. The Dominion was breaking, not from the outside, but from within. Captain Miller watched the intelligence reports with growing satisfaction. The mighty alien empire was cracking under the pressure of a war they never expected to fight. 3 more client races have broken away, Dr. Ross reported, her fingers moving across the holographic display. They're asking for peace talks, not with the Dominion, directly with Earth. The war room had changed over the past months. The stark military displays now shared space with biological monitoring stations. The officers wore uniforms that shifted colors like living things, adapting to their surroundings. Humanity had embraced change to survive, and now that change was bringing unexpected victories. "The Dominion's biggest mistake," Miller said, addressing his staff, "wasn't attacking us. It was showing their other subjects that they could be beaten." The latest reports showed the scale of the Empire's internal collapse. Species that had served the Dominion for centuries were turning away. Some simply declared independence. Others offered alliance with Earth. They had all seen what happened to the Dominion's unstoppable armies, their elite forces, their biological weapons. "They're gathering their remaining forces," a tactical officer reported. "All signs point to a massive push toward their core systems. They're abandoning their outer territories." Miller nodded. This was what they had been waiting for. "Prepare the strike teams. Dr. Ross, is the new system ready?" She smiled, touching a control that brought up images of Earth's latest weapons. They looked almost beautiful, sleek ships that combined metal, crystal, and living tissue. But their beauty hid a deadly purpose. "The integration is complete," she said. We've combined their biological technology with our mechanical systems in ways they never imagined possible. But that's not the real breakthrough. She brought up another display, showing complex energy patterns. This is what will win us the war. The Dominion's power had always come from their ability to control and manipulate energy. It was the foundation of their technology, their weapons, their very civilization. And now, thanks to months of study and adaptation, humanity had found their weak point. All ships prepare for phase shift, Miller ordered. The new fleet, a perfect blend of Earth's innovation and stolen alien technology, moved into position. They were about to take the fight directly to the enemy's home. The jump to Dominion space was unlike anything they had done before. The ships didn't just move through space. They slipped between the fabric of reality itself, using principles that the aliens had never fully understood despite using them for centuries. They emerged in the heart of Dominion territory, but instead of finding their weapons blocked by the legendary planetary defenses, Earth's ships passed right through them. The energy fields that had protected the alien worlds for generations might as well have been missed. They never fully understood their own technology. Dr. Ross explained over the command channel. They inherited it from ancient civilizations, learned to use it, but never truly grasped how it worked. We had to learn it from scratch, and in doing so, we found its flaws. The Dominion's response was panic. Their remaining fleets scrambled to defend their core worlds, but they were fighting an enemy that could appear anywhere, strike without warning, and vanish before retaliation. Miller led the first strike personally. His ship, now a living thing as much as a machine, responded to his thoughts as much as his commands. They struck at military installations, shipyards, command centers, but always avoided civilian targets. "We're not like you." The message went out to all Dominion frequencies. "We don't kill diplomats. We don't target the innocent. We're here for those who chose war over peace." The aliens learned a hard lesson about humanity that day. Earth's forces could have devastated their worlds, could have bombed their cities into ash. Instead, they struck with surgical precision, dismantling the Dominion's military capability piece by piece. "Another group of their ships is breaking formation," Tactical reported. They're running away." It wasn't just ships fleeing now. Entire battle groups were surrendering. The Dominion's iron grip on their empire had been built on fear and a reputation for invincibility. Now that reputation was shattered, and fear was working against them. Dr. Ross's voice came over the command channel, excitement clear in her tone. "Captain, we're detecting massive energy fluctuations in their central command structure. Their power grid is destabilizing." Miller watched as the mighty Dominion capital began to tear itself apart. Not from Earth's weapons, but from their own failing technology. They had pushed their systems too hard, tried to draw too much power in their desperation to fight back. "All ships, hold position," he ordered. "Let them see what their own arrogance has cost them." The Dominion's leadership had hidden themselves in a fortress they thought impregnable, protected by energy fields that had never failed in 10,000 years. Now those same fields were collapsing, the ancient technology finally reaching its breaking point. "Send the message," Miller commanded. "One last chance." The transmission was simple. "You can still surrender. Despite everything you've done, we will show mercy. This is more than you gave us, but it is who we are. Choose carefully." Minutes ticked by as they waited for a response. The Dominion capital continued to spark with failing energy fields, their mighty technologies turning against them. Finally, a reply came. "How?" The Dominion leader's voice was filled with disbelief. "How did you do this to us?" "You forced us to adapt," Miller replied. "You made us look at technology we had ignored, develop weapons we had avoided, become something more than we were. And now you're paying the price for that lesson." The surrender, when it came, was absolute. The Dominion's remaining military forces stood down. Their leadership emerged from their failing fortress to face justice, and humanity found itself in a position no one had expected: the peacekeepers of a fractured empire. As the cleanup began, Dr. Ross joined Miller on the observation deck of his ship. Below them, the Dominion capital still sparked with random energy discharges. "What do you think they learned from all this?" she asked. Miller watched as Earth ships helped evacuate civilians from the damaged sectors of the city. They learned that humanity wasn't just another species to conquer. They learned that offering peace isn't the same as being weak. And most importantly, he added, looking at his own reflection in the window, his uniform now a living part of him, his eyes showing the changes all humans had embraced to win this war. They learned why Earth's own people had always been a little afraid of what humanity could become if pushed too far. 1 year had passed since the Dominion's surrender. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had changed with it. Captain Miller stood before the newly formed Galactic Council, his enhanced body a testament to how far humans had come. Next to him, Dr. Ross prepared to present their final report on the war's aftermath. The council chamber held representatives from every species that had once been part of the Dominion's empire. Some still showed fear when they looked at the humans. Others showed respect. A few showed gratitude. But they all listened when Miller began to speak. "A year ago, we were offered a choice," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "Submit or face extinction. Today, we stand here to ensure no species ever faces such a choice again." The holographic displays activated, showing the changes Earth had undergone. The planet was now ringed with stations that blended organic and mechanical technology. Ships that looked almost alive moved between them, carrying trade goods rather than weapons. "We didn't just win a war," Dr. Ross explained to the assembly. "We evolved. We took everything the Dominion threw at us and learned from it. But now we face a greater challenge, learning to live in peace with these changes." The former Dominion leaders sat in a special section, their once proud forms now humbled. They watched as humanity revealed the full extent of what they had accomplished during the war. The technologies they had mastered, the understanding they had gained, the power they now held. "You wanted to see humanity's true nature," Miller continued. "You thought you saw weakness in our desire for peace. Instead, you forced us to show strength we had hoped never to use. But strength isn't just about winning wars. It's about what you do after." The displays shifted to show the reconstruction efforts. Human ships, the same ones that had torn through the Dominion's defenses, now helped rebuild destroyed worlds. The biological weapons they had developed were being adapted to heal damaged ecosystems. The power they had gained was being used to protect, not destroy. "We're establishing the Galactic Defense Force," Miller announced, "not to conquer or control, but to protect. Any species that wishes to join will be welcomed. Any world that needs help will receive it. The time of empires is over." Dr. Ross stepped forward, bringing up new images. They showed the next generation of human innovations, ships that could heal themselves, stations that could grow food from stellar energy, technologies that blended the best of all species' knowledge. "We're sharing everything we learned," she said. "All the advancements, all the discoveries. Knowledge shouldn't be hoarded or used as a weapon. That was the Dominion's mistake, and we won't repeat it." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some representatives argued that humanity was too powerful to be trusted. Others pointed out that humans had shown remarkable restraint in victory. The debate raged until an unexpected voice spoke up. The former Dominion Supreme Commander, now a prisoner of war, rose from his seat. "You don't understand," he said to his fellow aliens. "We failed because we never understood what humans truly are. They don't seek power for its own sake. They develop it because they must, then try to find ways to use it wisely." Miller nodded in acknowledgement. The commander had learned what his entire empire had failed to grasp. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their weapons or technology, but in their ability to change while holding on to their principles. "We stand at a crossroads," Miller told the assembly. "The Dominion ruled through fear. We choose a different path. We offer partnership, not subjugation. Progress, not oppression. And yes, we offer protection, because we remember what it was like to face extinction alone. The voting began. One by one, the representatives made their choice. Some chose to join the new alliance immediately. Others decided to wait and watch. A few chose to remain independent, but none chose war. They had all seen what that path led to. As the session ended, Dr. Ross approached Miller with a small data crystal. "The latest reports from Earth," she said. "The integration of alien technology has stabilized. We've found a balance between what we were and what we've become." Miller took the crystal, studying its shifting colors. "Do you ever wonder if we went too far, changed too much?" "We did what we had to do," she replied. "But look at how we're using those changes now. That's what matters." The view from the council chamber showed the sprawling space station that hosted the new Galactic Council. Ships from 100 worlds moved through its docking rings. Among them were the new human vessels, their living metal hulls now a familiar sight across the galaxy. "Send the final message to Earth Command," Miller said to his communication officer. "Tell them the transition is complete. The war is officially over." The message was sent, traveling faster than light through the new networks humanity had built from the ashes of the Dominion's empire. As it reached Earth, celebrations began, not just for the peace, but for what came next. In the years that followed, the galaxy would remember the war not just for its battles, but for what it revealed about humanity. A species that offered peace first, but when forced to fight, fought with everything they had. A species that could become monsters to defeat monsters, then find their way back to civilization. "What do you think they'll say about us in their histories?" Dr. Ross asked as they prepared to return to Earth. Miller looked out at the stars, thinking of all the changes they had been through, all the horrors and wonders they had seen. "They'll say we were the species that changed everything," he replied. "The ones who proved that true strength isn't in conquering others, but in protecting them. The ones who faced extinction and chose to become something new rather than perish." The ship's living hull hummed around them as they began their journey home. Behind them, the new Galactic Council continued its work, building a future that no one could have imagined before the war. A future where peace wasn't seen as weakness and strength wasn't measured by conquest. Humanity had been forced to show the galaxy their worst, but in doing so, they had found their best. They had become the guardians they had always hoped to find among the stars. And the message they had sent would echo through the ages. Never mistake patience for weakness or the desire for peace as fear, for when humanity is pushed too far, they don't just fight. They change the rules of war itself.